Psalm 149, Part 2. Praise Yahweh. Sing to Yahweh a new song, his praise in the assembly of the godly. Let Israel be glad in his Maker. Let the children of Zion rejoice in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making melody to him with tambourine and lyre. For Yahweh takes pleasure in his people. He adorns the humble with salvation. Let the godly exult in glory. Let them sing for joy on their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their throats and two-edged swords in their hands, to execute vengeance on the nations and punishment on the peoples, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute on them the judgment that is written. This is honor for all his godly ones. Praise Yahweh. Now, if you've got some questions about that violence there at the end where you're executing judgment on the nations while singing the praises of God, we dealt with that in part 1 of this video last week. What I want to zero in on here is especially verse 1, but also, verse 4 and so on, where he says, sing to Yahweh a new song, his praise in the assembly of the godly. So here we are reading a text that's, at least 1,000 years old, 3,000 years old, and maybe 2,500 years, we'll see. But he's talking about singing a new song. Well, this is an ongoing commandment to write new music for the Lord. So the simple application here is, if you've got a musical bone in your body, make up some music, man. In fact, maybe you write a song, you bring it to Micah, and he'll work on it with you or whatever. And if it's something that's going to be helpful and able for the congregation to participate in, maybe it's something we wind up doing on Sunday mornings. You guys may not know this, but some of the songs that we do here on Sunday mornings were written by some of our people. Usually we don't put the name right up there because our folks are not the type to want attention for that kind of thing, but it's happening a lot already. And by the way, we need some new congregational songs. There's a huge stockpile of good congregational music from the last few hundred years in English, but there's also a lot of junk, and the junk has been the stylistic blueprint for the music for the last 50 years or so in congregational singing. And the form of it is good. There's a good reason for this, and when things are repetitive, then somebody can learn it the first verse and then participate the second verse. That's a good thing. So if you've got melodies that are simple and repeatable and easily caught on to and learnable and things like that, that's all great. That has loaned itself into repetitive lyrics where there's a lot more words than there is content, and there's a lot more talking than there is meaning, right? That's bad. That's like approaching vain repetition stuff, which Jesus says we don't want to do. And in the last, I think probably 20 years, there's been a massive resurgence of doctrinally solid congregational music. You look at some of the stuff that Matt Papa has been doing with, that album that he put out with Shane and Shane, where they just sang the Psalms. You look at what City of Light is doing in Australia. They're increasing the doctrinal density per word of congregational songs, but they're still very singable songs. You look at the stuff that Bob Coughlin has been doing with Sovereign Grace Music, and some of that stuff. Matt Boswell, they're putting out some really solid stuff for churches to sing, and we're singing a lot of that, right? But we need to continue that. We need to sing a new song to Yahweh, and the fact is, every generation needs their own soundtrack. We can go back and sing the stuff from 100 years ago and appreciate it. We can go sing the stuff from 200 years ago and appreciate it. But actually, what's much harder is for people to emotionally connect with the stuff from 40 years ago, from 50 years ago. For folks like, let's say, my age or below, for us to sing the stuff that really resonated with our parents is probably not going to really resonate with us. We might really resonate with stuff that resonated with folks that are now dead and gone, but every generation does just have their own take on things and their own way of talking, their own lingo, their own musical habits. And it's not a bad thing that every generation seems to want to do something beyond what their parents and grandparents did. That's actually good. And what we should do is lean into that impulse and write new music. Not totally throwing out the old, but just creating new stuff that's worth embracing, and then do it. Also, God loves it. Look at verse 4. For Yahweh takes pleasure in his people. Sing a new song, right? And not just new stuff for yourself. Sing a new song in the assembly of God's people. Write new congregational music. And God takes pleasure in his people. He loves it. right? So if you, I'll say it again, if you've got a musical inclination, a musical vibration in one of your cells in your body, come up with something that maybe could be sung in a congregation somewhere, someday. God is pleased even with the effort, let alone the result. And what comes out of you, what really resonates with you, may not be something that is super helpful for the church at large, but that's okay. You still get to sing it on your bed, which God says here is a good thing. Private worship is a good thing. So sing a new song to the Lord. First, you got to write it.